Hey YouTube, here we go. We're gonna do this video. I look terrible, lighting is terrible, everything is terrible. Do you like my shirt? We're gonna do like part one of this saga because I keep saying, oh, I've got this or I've got that, and I'll do a video on it later, and then I don't because I've got so many things up in the air and nothing has come down yet. But you know what? What that results in is me not doing videos. And I said I was going to document my life. There is something on my curtain. It's a fly. It's fine. I'm safe. It's good. It's just a fly. Anyway, I've been finding some gnarly bugs in my house. We've got to do something about it. I am so tired. Look at me. I'm so tired. I'm so stressed out. And I am not on here to complain. I'm really not. I could tell you about the crazy stuff that my 2-year-old has been doing. And how tonight we discovered she has like this infection in her mouth and that's probably causing it. I could tell you about a bunch of stuff, but what we're going to talk about on here right now is school or homeschooling. That is the question. That has been the question. That has been the question for years now. It wasn't the question. I'll be perfectly frank with you. I don't post on here like where I live or anything like that. And I'm not going to, but if you know me and you watch this video, you know where I'm at. So here's the thing. I have no interest in sending my children to our school district. I really don't. Yeah, I just really don't. I have no personal experience there. I want to be perfectly frank right now, out of the gate. I have no personal experience with our school. My husband graduated from our school. His brothers graduated from our school. And they're fine. Like, it's fine. I'm not saying that. I know a ton of people who have gone to our school and graduated from our school, and they're fine. But as a whole, for a lot of reasons, I'm just uncomfortable with it and have been. Okay? I have 2 schools near me that are not in there. It's not our district, but they're not far from me. And when I say not far from me, I mean one is like it's less than like a half a mile down the road to the other district. That is a very, very, very heavily sought after school district in our area. It's a very small school. And I like the idea of a small school. I think some people would probably consider like our school district small too. I personally would not, and I'll get into that in a little bit. I would not, but whatever. I think ours would be considered small. These other 2 school districts that I'm talking about on that scale must be just like tiny. Just tiny. I don't know, but they're pretty small. But they only go to 8th grade. You know, and then they would have to come to our district because there's a smaller community kind of a thing. So anyway, I have peeled back every layer. I have sought out every possible scenario in which I could send my children to either one of those other districts. I really genuinely have. I even called the school and just been like, how can I get them out there? I've tried to get part-time jobs out there just to try to get them there. Nothing has worked out. Nothing has worked out over the course of like the last 3 years. So we're coming down to the wire on my oldest daughter. I was gonna say my girls, but I mean really right now it's just one. Would either have to go to our district, or there's a couple alternative schools that we have access to, and then or homeschooling. So let's dissect like these alternative schools. There's 3 that I know of off the top of my head, like local to our community. One is a Catholic school, and I guess it's affiliated with like that Catholic church or whatever. I don't know if it's free for members like or anything like that, but we're not Catholic. I'm not judging it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm not saying, oh no, I would absolutely never send my children there. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we're not Catholic, and that feels weird to me. I've known people that have done that, though. And I mean, I guess it's okay. The other one is also affiliated with a church. I'm trying to remember if it's like maybe a Baptist church. You know, that being said, I'm not Baptist either. But I don't know why that feels less weird than sending my kids to a Catholic school. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know why that would be, but it just does. But my brain does not even entertain that school, because as a young child, I toured that school and I got the weirdest feeling, and I was like, no, thank you. If you're following me and you know the school that I'm talking about and you're offended by what I'm saying, I'm really sorry. I don't know. I just got a really weird feeling, and I told my mom, I was like, absolutely not. I'm not going there. So that school has never been on the table for me, because I just didn't, it just wasn't. The other one is a Christian-based school as well. It's not affiliated with a church, from what I understand. I mean, the people obviously, like, they go to church and stuff like that, but it's not like a church school, okay? It seems really good. It seems really solid. It seems really, really good. I have two issues with this. One main one, and one is not as big of a deal, but I have two issues. The first one, that is not that big of a deal, is this is only its second year open. It's only its second year open. It's not been open very long. I'm not saying I want to go to a school that's been open for years and years and years. Like, I don't care, but it's like, it's only the second year, okay? But my main issue with this, and please don't come for me in the comments, because I understand that it takes money to operate. And if it's a good school and they're doing lots of hands-on things, I mean, things cost money. I'm all for that. I do not know. The other two schools I talked about, I do not know what their, not salary, tuition. I do not know what they are. But this school, when it started out, it was $3,500 a year for one child. It then went up to $4,000, and now it is $4,600 a year. Within 2 years of being open, it is $4,600 a year for one child. I have two children. That doesn't feel feasible to me, especially when my husband could look at me and go, and we could send them to public school for free and have a bunch of sports and everything else open to them. Where with this school, it's very small, and I don't know that that would be the case. I mean, I'm sure it's probably not, but anyway. So, to me, that puts it just really far out there for us. It really does. So then that leaves the homeschooling thing. So before I go into anything else, here's what I'll say. I went to a church school. I went to a really small church school. I went for 11 years, I think, right? Yeah. Started kindergarten and I left in my 12th grade year. And you heard me right. I left. I did not graduate. I left. Nothing is perfect. Nothing will ever be perfect. It felt very much like it was my time to go. I'm glad that I did, because I always maintained my love for God. I always maintained my beliefs. And I was always able to love the people that I grew up with. I had to work through some things. I had to work through some anger. I had to work through some lessons, I guess, in my mind to put things in their proper perspective. But I was always able to love those people, and still to this day, they feel like, like distant family. I don't really see much anymore. And so I'm excited about that. I feel like if I would have stayed longer, it would have all went really sour, and I don't like that, So I'm not saying that it's a perfect scenario. I'm really not saying it's a perfect scenario. And, being an adult now and hearing people like from my school talk and their opinions on things, again, nothing is perfect. However, I feel like I went to the place that I was meant to go. I truly do. I just feel like there's a lot of bugs. There's just so many bugs. I don't know. Anyway, so, it's really hard for me because I do not view school in the most orthodox way. Just because of the way that the fundamentals of my school was made up, I don't know a lot about the inner workings of like public school, you know, as a student. Like, I really don't. I know there's a lot of good things to it. Again, I'm not on here knocking that. I'm really, truly not. I am not. Because if I were, we would have this decision made, right? And there's a lot of pros to both sides, and there's a lot of cons, and trying to weigh it out and try to have this conversation. Here's what I'll say. My husband and I have sat down, I don't know how many times, and had the most unproductive conversations I have ever experienced or witnessed in my entire lifetime about the schooling thing, because it's always kind of like this circle, 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 and then doesn't land anywhere. We have no solution, nothing, and then we just kind of walk away from the conversation, like unfinished. It's just, we don't know. We are running out of time. My daughter is going to have to be schooled in some manner. She is graduating her preschool this year, and that's really sad, but I'm having a hard time processing that and sitting in the moment with that, because I'm so consumed with what we're going to do. You know what I mean? So here's where I want to take it from here and talk about the homeschooling aspect of things. I have a bunch of books, but our routine, like, we're in one way we have a good routine, and in another way we're not the best. I feel like I could probably do it, but I'm just saying, like, as it is right now, like, we don't have like a routine for like sitting down and doing lessons. And I want to work on that. Now, we do a lot of hands-on learning and stuff like that, which is a huge part of homeschooling. So in a way, we already have that part down. But the other part, with the routine and the sitting down and the following through with those lessons, we don't have that. And I do get concerned about that, because part of the reason that we put my daughter in preschool is because she was like a sponge, right? She loves to learn and she loves to absorb things, but she had no interest in learning letter recognition, and it just was becoming a bit of an issue. And so putting her in the preschool gave her that classroom environment, which enabled her then to learn her letter recognition. And so I recognize that with my daughter, and I just don't want to make the wrong decision, and that maybe other things could come up where we're fighting a losing battle over here and she needs a classroom environment. I don't know. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, there's pros and cons to both. But when my daughter was like 2.5, my mom was watching her all the time. She was watching her like 3 days a week. And I was working like 3 days a week. And my mom discovered that our local library had story time. So my mom started taking her to story time. And then when my mother-in-law had her on that day, she would take her to story time. And so she was going to story time for a long time. And I was never a part of it. And then after I had my second daughter and I ended up leaving my job, I had gone like inadvertently for whatever reason a couple of times, but whenever I left my job and no longer worked that day a week, I started going to story time as well and having that experience and kind of starting to get to know the moms and the grandmas and stuff like that. They have this great little community amongst themselves, and a lot of them are homeschooling moms, and so they have like this little homeschool community. Now our library has started to do actual homeschooling events, and she's got it broken up like 2 different groups a week because it's so big that they fill up. And so she does these homeschool things like every single week, which I think is amazing, and they're really great projects and stuff too. I'll circle back to this library group, and like I'll circle back to this aspect of it. But what I can say also is stepping out and getting in different environments. I am realizing that homeschooling is actually huge. It's actually so much bigger than even I thought that it was. I now have connections with and have talked to and had like specific conversations with like multiple different people, like that are not affiliated with each other at all, and getting their take. So this is what I've been doing, is I've been going around and talking to these moms that are already into it, because like with the library mom group that I'm in, a lot of them, they either haven't really done it. They just know that they want to homeschool, or they're just getting into it, kind of. There's only like a couple that have actually done it for any amount of time. But these other moms that I know that maybe like I go to church with, or, well, the one was like a mom from a girl that my older daughter went to school with. Like, I'll sit down and I'll be like, okay, so you're homeschooling. So what do you do? Like, do you do curriculum? Do you not do curriculum? You just piece things together yourself. Like, you set the lesson plan. What's the curriculum that you use? How do you organize that? How do you track your hours? You know, things like that. I'm trying to gain that knowledge because I don't know what we're going to do. And I want to be informed. I really want to be informed. Sometimes it feels like we're going to homeschool, and sometimes it feels like we're going to send them to school. Again, just circling back, I'm just uncomfortable with them going to our district. So anyway, so I've gotten a lot of knowledge and a lot of information, and there's one mom, and like a lot of them are really helpful, but there's one mom in particular that she literally brought me a stack of papers, and she's like, here is how I do my lesson plans. Here is like how I track my hours. Here's how I log this. Here are the state rules. Like, she laid everything out for me, and she said, if you decide to homeschool, I will make you copies of all of this, and you can just print it. You know, you can just copy it and you can keep track this way. If you like the system, if you don't like, that's fine, whatever. She wasn't being forceful at all, but she was being so genuinely helpful. Like, here's all my stuff, and if you feel like this could work for your brain, I will share this with you. Absolutely amazing, the resources that I've gained. There's multiple families within the church that I'm going to that are homeschooling, that are not, I don't want to say they're not affiliated because they go to the same church, but then what happened, and I got my hopes up, the director from my daughter's preschool said, I would like to start a school. If I started a school, would you be a teacher? I said, listen, I have laid awake for the last 3 years praying about this. Yes, I would be a teacher. Yes, this would solve all of our problems. It would be the happy medium of everything. If you guys start a school, I have to talk to my husband, but I feel like this is an easy yes. And like, this is absolutely would answer every question. So this would be the solution for everything. Well, I waited a few weeks for her to talk to the pastor and get back with me, and the answer was no. They're not going to open a school, and I was really disappointed because I really thought maybe that was going to be the thing, the answer to prayer. But it wasn't, and so then she kind of put me in with this other girl, and I got to have a conversation with her, who she and the pastor's wife get together once a week, and they go to a local co-op. So here's the thing, I have resources. I have made connections, and I have lots of resources. Essentially, my girls, well, my older daughter for now, could be in tumbling and dance. She could be doing the library homeschool events and story time like she does or whatever, but she's going to outgrow that. But the library homeschool events, kids club at the library. She could, we could go to the co-op once a week. And then like all of this with the library mom thing. Well, let me circle back to that, because I had just started kind of getting in with them and doing things with them. So they put me in their group chat, and I've been invited to a lot of things, and there's a lot of things that I've missed. Well, just last week we went to a field trip. They organized a field trip to our local electric department. This electric department, when I tell you, they rolled out the red carpet. It's a co-op. They rolled out the red carpet. They put on they did like a presentation. They put on these little movies for the kids. They had this whole big demonstration out there to show like a physical like demonstration about electricity and safety and all of that kind of stuff. They took us on a tour of the facility. We got to see the trucks. We got to meet some of the workers. And then at the end of our tour and everything, they took us back in for another safety movie and popped popcorn for us, had snacks, had coloring books, had all of this. And at the end of it, because it's April and it's Earth Day and Arbor Day in the same month, they gave us trees for our kids. This was for the little homeschool group from our local library. I was so blown away and I was so impressed. And my husband went with me. And then they organized a family bowling out night, which honestly, that kind of bombed. And it was nobody's fault. Like, I feel like everybody probably felt the same way. So I don't feel guilty saying it. It did kind of bomb. I was hoping that it would work out better. But there's a couple of other events that are coming up and I want to go to it. One of them is a mom meetup. It's where just the moms get together and go for coffee. And I'm like, what the heck? That's cool. And then the other one that they have coming up is a field trip, and it's like to this outdoor classroom thing. And I'm like, so see, the stuff is there. The stuff is there. My husband and I have to sit down and have a real serious conversation to decide what we're going to do, because we essentially have this summer to figure it out. And again, there's pros, there's cons, there's everything else. I have not gotten on here and talked candidly about it because it just feels like a really big open subject. And I have been having so many conversations and I've been putting so many irons in the fire trying to figure out really how I feel about it and what I think we should do. Then I'm like, I'm just not going to talk about that till we make a decision. Well, you know what? Like I said, I could sit here and talk for hours about this because it has been not all consuming, but it has been kind of consuming my life for a while. And I'm very passionate about doing what is absolutely best for my kids, not just what's convenient. And so, you know, and again, I've had so many conversations that I could just sit here and just like word vomit at you, and I'm not going to do that. But that is where we're at. That is what's going on. And so very soon we're going to have to sit down and make a decision. So hopefully I can get on here and update you. I have very mixed emotions about all of it. And I could sit here and be more candid about it, I guess. But I'm not here to like come off as like rude or judgmental in any way, because everybody's going to have different opinions on this. And that's okay. Because I actually don't disagree either way. You know, that's the thing. So I think I'm just going to end this now. Very open-ended. That's just a story. That's just where we've been at. Yeah, it's a tough one, but we don't have a lot of time. So anyway, thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you next time. Bye.